Welcome, everyone, to Conversations with Friends. And I'm really excited tonight to get to interview a very old friend. She's not old, but she's been a friend for so many years. Alicia Sirkin is a personal life coach, and she's also the director of the Alicia Sirkin Creative Living Center. Alicia, long before she made her work, really her career, it was her passion to help people. And I can say that because I watched it for many years, I would see her at the Dade County schools because WLRN was next door, trying to let people know that the kids should be eating healthy foods and foods that were nourishing. I would see her bring lentil loaf to parties where you bring your own food or bring food for everybody. And everybody else was bringing at that time, what were they bringing? Potato chips and cake and stuff like that. And there was this lentil loaf right in the middle of the table. And I didn't know Alicia very well then. And I said, this is an interesting woman. So she has been on this path, not just to help people in terms of their eating habits, which have actually become so much more popular today and really used by so many people. But she's really, her passion to me, and we're going to talk, Alicia, in 1 second, is about helping people deal with their life situations and make them realize that if something isn't working, that they can create change and they can change it. It takes time. We're going to learn today. So Alicia, welcome. And I'm delighted to get to have you on Conversations with Friends. My first question is really the way I see it with you is you really, the people that come to you, your clients that come to you, there's something in their life that's not working, right? It doesn't mean that they're necessarily depressed or they're suffering or anything, or they went through trauma. There's just something they're trying to change. So what is it that you do at your Creative Living Center in terms of working with your clients?
Well, thank you. I first must say what a joy it is to be here today with you. I'm very excited to be a part of what's going on here at the Brahma Kumari Center and happy to share some of the things that I find have been helpful, not only in my own life, but also in the lives of the beautiful souls that come my way and to make changes in their lives. So I think, there's so many times in our life, and we may not be, like you say, we might not be depressed or have any emotional dysfunction in a big way, where we would require a psychotherapist or someone in a mental health profession, but someone that the way we move through our life just isn't working, in other words, right? Or we're trying different things to be better and it's not working and we're stuck. Right. So what I like to do is bring in my clients and meet them where they are in that very moment where we meet together and find a way to look at what the greatest challenges are and focus on that. And that requires some self-assessment, right? So that's the first step really in making change, is being able to focus and have a practice of self-assessment and check in. What's not working? What am I feeling now? What am I feeling good about? What am I not feeling good about? Right. And look at what the goals are. What does that person want to improve? What areas of their life are going to be important to upgrade, so to speak, right? And in doing so, I like to look at, and of course, the act of making positive change and the act of being able to overcome challenges really begins with a desire to make the change. So that's one of the things we look at. What is your desire? And then from that comes intention. And intention can lead to actionability. So we have a desire, we set a strong intention, and then we develop actionable steps. What steps can we take to move us toward our goal? Okay, because these are life skills that we can practice the whole of our life. And beyond that is accountability. We can set doable action steps that are comfortable for us, little baby steps for, that we can actually make the change. But if we don't hold ourselves accountable, then we'll slip off, right? Slip off the path.
Well, Alicia, I mean, people come in, first of all, I would think they're not exactly clear about what's bothering them, right? I mean, they know they have a problem.
That's
Maybe it's
also
in their
true.
relationship.
Hmm.
They know that something's not working, but do they usually blame the situation or the other person?
Well, many people
Not be
do.
a person. It might not be a person. It might be
Yeah.
something else.
And I think one of the things that I really work with my clients on is developing a positive sense of self, because it's so important for us to work on ourselves first and be the best and become the best that we can be within ourselves before we can interact in a healthy way with others. Okay.
Does it require going back in time? Because often it's connected to something from your own past. That's what I've seen in people and even in myself. Maybe it's something that I was raised a certain way, I behave a certain way, I think a certain way, and I'm not going to be able to change until I look into my past.
Yes, it does require some reflection.
Yeah.
And it does require, if we work on self-assessment and a practice of looking at ourselves,
Hmm.
and we recognize that there are some patterns that are not serving us well,
Hmm.
then, and we recognize that, yes, now is the time. I'm really ready to dig in and change this pattern, because I'm creating the same life with the same patterns. And if I want to improve my life, I have to release those old patterns and create new ones to take their place, right? So
Yeah.
yes, it does require remembering and going back into the past and looking at where the pattern first initiated. Were you an infant? Were you in middle school? Were your parents separated and you felt alone in the world? And you felt unsafe in the world? Did you have negative um, input from people that had more power than you, your parents, your teacher, someone in the schoolyard, a religious leader that was speaking negatively to you? And, our brains are not really formed fully until we're in our 20s.
Mm.
So the labels and the um, um, words that we hear from others when we're a child, that's energy. Words have a frequency and energy that we can take on and that becomes our sense of self. So if we had someone that said, you're not really, no one's going to love you, okay, for example, right?
It happened. Yeah.
And that happens to a lot of people. You're unlovable, or they feel unlovable for some reason. And that's a pattern that they would then take on as a child, not knowing any better that it's not theirs to take on, because in adulthood, we can do that. We have the intelligence and our brain is fully formed. And so when we're not able to do that and we take that on, we carry that's as our sense of self. And that's a pattern. So that's what we're talking about. Yes, understand what it was, and then bring it forward to real life today in the moment. We're not that person anymore, right? And to recognize that and to be able to have self-help tools, which is what I offer my
Mm.
clients, on how to reframe the way we use our self-talk. And self-talk is a big piece of what I learn, what I teach, what I've learned for myself and what I teach, because how we talk to ourselves creates how we live. Mahatma Gandhi, for example, said, man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. And it's very true. I've seen it in myself and I've seen it in others. And so it's so important to work on recognizing when our self-talk is not positive and being able to make that shift from the negative to the positive, even if it
It's
means
a big job. It's
it's a big job, and it takes time.
from
It
the
takes
Bach Flower
time.
Remedies. I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't come easy, but when you have
correct.
that moment, and I've had that moment many times where it's a realization, isn't it? And you realize, because you can go through life and think it's other people, it's not me, it's other people. I used to think, I've said this before, I used to think I don't get angry, but I get hurt. People, say mean things to me, and I'm very sensitive. And I began to realize that that had been kind of a little like a pattern with me, getting hurt. Somebody said something mean or nasty, and I would feel bad. And as a result, probably I never wanted to be angry with anybody. So I had to kind of clear that up and stop feeling, in a sense, it was kind of like a victim. It didn't happen that often, but I realized it through my spiritual process. But it takes effort again, doesn't it? You can't come in and just blame everybody else in the world for your problems, or your, why things aren't working or situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that requires constant vigilance and practice. And you have, I'm sure that when you went through your healing or, well, it's a healing, really.
It's a healing.
When you get to the other side of that, which you have, it takes a lot of practice and being on top of it. And it is, life is, for me, I think life is a lifelong study. And I feel, and I teach my clients, that it's so important to learn, grow, and change for the better. I think that's
Beautiful.
what my point, the way I feel is, I feel that's why I'm here in this lifetime, to learn, grow, and become a better person.
I love that. Learn, grow,
and change for the better. And that in itself is a practice. Because it means that, and the other point of that is that I believe, and perhaps some of you that are listening and watching believe the same thing, is that when we are stagnant, when we are stuck, when we are not moving forward, when we are not learning, growing, and changing for the better, we're really not living. We're not really flourishing. But when we are living and growing and changing for the better, we're thriving, we're flourishing, we're vibrant. And that's where I like to bring my clients to understand that that's a possibility. And the possibility and the action really resides with oneself. No one's going to do it for us. It's our work, our personal work. And I just call myself like a lifelong student and a student of myself. And I'm constantly working on myself. I still have stuff in old patterns that I'm getting better at, and I'm working to overcome impatience, for example, just wanting to get things done just like this, right? And when they don't get done, a little bit of impatience and frustration can arise. Well, what is frustration? Frustration is like another word for anger. Okay. And so we may not think of ourselves as angry, but when we get frustrated, it is a form of anger. So it's like anger, irritation, right? Yeah. And so anger actually covers the state of fear, and fear covers the state of sadness. So when I'm frustrated or angry, I can ask myself, and just not stay in that state, because I know that's not the state I want to live in. But I will ask myself, okay, what am I feeling anxious about? Or what am I feeling upset or afraid of? And then in any situation. And then I can go deeper beyond that once I identify that. And I'll say, what am I sad about? Have I experienced, is this situation or this person causing me to feel like I've had a loss? And if we examine ourselves in those different ways, at those levels, we can really get to the core understanding of why that frustration or anger arose in the first place. And therefore, it's one of the tools I teach, and one of the modalities that we can learn to use and practice on an everyday level. And that can help us when we're going through challenges.
I find this so interesting, because I would think that many of the people that come to you, I could be wrong, are not necessarily coming for a whole process. I mean, because you're really talking about a spiritual process. And they might not be into spirituality, right? It is spiritual, because you just said looking within, going inside and trying to understand what you're feeling, starting with your feelings and your behavior. And in a sense, we're putting the responsibility again on ourselves. And there's a lot of people that they're often very active. They might be successful in something. I mean, not everybody, but, they're doers. They're doers, And they maybe have never stopped to think about why they are the way they are, or what's going on inside, right? They're just accomplishing, even let's say a teacher that's just always, has to have the lesson plan in the class and every single day. And there's not really any time for introspection. And so you're saying that if you want to heal and you want to work things out, you need to go within, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a personal choice. And whatever someone comes to me for, I recognize that they may or they may not be able to or even want to go to that place where they're making active change, because there's a fear of making change, which is a natural state of being for many people. And so therefore they might talk a good game. They may say, oh yeah, I want to make a change. I'm not happy here. I'm having an awful relationship with my parents, or, whatever it is. And yet they really are not quite ready to to do the action steps I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fear holds them back, because it is a bit scary to many to make change, because they recognize that, well, what if I make the change? Am I going to lose some of my current relationships with people? Because I'm going to be different, right? Because when we make positive change, since we are energy beings, we're just made of energy, right? Every
Yeah.
cell in our body
Huh?
has a negative and a positive charge, right? So we're energy beings, and so they have the desire, but they have also the fear that holds them back. So we have to look at that and see, and they decide, and whatever they decide is their path, and that's fine, because they may be ready later, but maybe not now, right? So it's a process that requires a deeper understanding and just some conversation around that.
And it requires attention, attention, attention. That's how I see
Yep.
it.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
today, everything is, maybe I'm okay today, but then tomorrow there's something I have to look at. Like you said, someone says something to you, someone criticizes you, and all of a sudden the old patterns, it's very old patterns that we have. And I wanted you to maybe share a little bit about what you had been through before you were able to really develop, as a coach, as a teacher, as so many things that you do, all kind of rolled into one, that you went through as a child, really, that I think kind of brought you to where you are at today, right?
Yes, it's true. I
Yeah.
do want to mention one other thing that I've learned is that, and that this is a little mantra that I remind myself, is that I am an imperfect being living in an imperfect world.
Mm.
Because I used to put so much energy and effort into being perfect,
Yeah.
the perfect student in school, the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, the
Cook,
perfect
right?
mother,
Right. Yeah.
and when we make choices that don't turn out so well, and this is, I think, true for many of us, we call it a mistake. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that a mistake, actually, like, I have reframed the word mistake. I call it a growth point.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So a mistake happens because we've made a choice that didn't work out according to what our conscious mind and our ego mind wanted to have happen. Okay. Not what the divine, not from a divine sense where, there's a path that we're going to be taking on a divine level, that there's our soul's purpose, for example. We have, all of us are here for some purpose in life, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, yeah. And so it's a good thing to understand that everything happens for a reason. I keep reminding myself, this is something that I practice all the time, having to remind myself that when something like awful happens, or something that's really upsetting happens, there's a reason for it. Like, what am I here to learn from this? Because it's going to help me be stronger. And if I look at it in a different way, then I don't get the beauty and the value from that lesson that's being put in front of me. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out because it came to me in this moment. to say. Yeah. So now let's turn the table and go way back.
Wow.
When I was 6 years old,
Yeah.
my father had his first massive heart attack. He was 36 years old. And in those days, no one really talked about feelings.
Right.
And so for the next 9 years, he had several other heart attacks until he passed at 45. I was 16 years old. So in a way, I felt like I lost my daddy. I lost the love of my life, right? And that was very hard on me. But from the age of 6, I started emotional eating because we weren't talking about feelings. We weren't talking about daddy's going to be okay. Or, it was the words out of my parents' mouth was daddy's going to be okay. I'm, going to be okay. And yet what I saw did not match that. He wasn't okay. And so what do I do with my feelings? I started numbing myself with food, with junk food and, ice creams and cakes and, all of that stuff. And so my weight went up and I had a very poor sense of self-image because I was very chunky, very chubby. And it was very difficult with me because I didn't have the stability anymore in the household, that I was yearning for, right? And so it wasn't until after my dad passed and I was 20 years old, that I was so heavy and I went through a period where I didn't even fit into my largest size clothes. And I had what I thought was symptoms of juvenile diabetes. I thought I was getting diabetes because of some symptoms that were appropriate because I was a dental hygienist at that time. And I just had an emotional breakdown. I really did. And in that moment when I had that emotional breakdown, I was like I was like facing the abyss, I'm just like at the worst point in my life. And I hated myself and I hated what I was doing to myself. I knew better. And I just heard a voice, and I don't know where it came from, but it was just a voice that I heard inside my head that said, Alicia, stop it. Stop what you're doing. You're going to die young like your dad if you keep on this track. So just stop it.
I have the chills hearing.
And so the fear of dying young like my dad, because I knew I was on the wrong track and I didn't know how to fix it or how to get out of it. And we're talking about how do you move through personal challenges today, right, in our talk. And so what happened for me is I had to experience the bottom. I had to go all the way to the bottom before I kind of like, was jarred awake and realized that, no, I don't want to die young like my dad. I want to be whole and well and healthy.
Beautiful.
And so that's what came from all of this in those moments. I mean, it happened so fast that I just committed myself to that I would do whatever it took to be whole and well and healthy and not die young like my dad. So my dad, in the loving of him that he gave me, he taught me so many important messages in the way he lived and died, because I learned what I didn't want in my life. And therefore the fear, fear is very interesting because fear can paralyze us and hold us back, right? But we can also utilize fear, the energy of fear, to propel us forward into something very valuable and very positive. And that's what I did. And I don't know that I recognized it at the time, that I can speak about it now looking back. And so for me, that was a pivotal moment. And I just signed myself right up for Weight Watchers. I got rid of the weight, and I changed my life, right? Now, even though I was eating a quote unquote healthy diet and lost the weight, that didn't mean that I was really healthy. I was healthier because I wasn't carrying the weight. So it was less on my heart and less on my, my other thing. But the, because later on I had another health challenge, a serious health challenge where, and I won't go into the details, but it was a very potentially serious situation with my health. And I had to look at, well, I'm eating sort of healthy, right? I'm eating small animal protein meals with lots of salad and vegetables and
Mm,
fruit, things
mhm.
like that, right?
Yeah.
But whatever I was eating did not serve me well health-wise. Okay.
Mhm.
So a lot of people can be thin, but if they're eating foods that are not health promoting and inflammation causing in the body, then there can be disease and chronic disease. So in fact, that's why many scientists now, since we know better, will call heart disease, diabetes, and some cancers lifestyle diseases
Mm,
because of
mhm.
what we eat, how we move through the world, what we drink, how we eat, and what we eat.
It's a
So
remarkable story. I mean, your story is
there's
remarkable.
so much to learn,
Came to that.
and I've spent a lifetime
Studying.
learning. Yes, and so I'm in my 70s now, mid 70s, and I have all of this life experience that has brought me so far, and yet I know I have a long way to go yet with learning about myself and how to make myself and create a better person within myself. I think
Beautiful.
too, as we continue to work on ourselves, there's so much more joy, and life, we move through situations in a smoother way with more grace and more ease when we work on levels of moving through the world in a way that's more conscious. And what that means is with more compassion, with more kindness, with more acceptance of others right where they are, and with more love for oneself first, and then for others.
You really can't love others until you really love yourself and accept
That's
yourself.
it.
I
That's
think many
exactly
of the
right.
things that you
That's
have said
exactly right.
today, and I'm just looking, I think that we've gone way over, but this is wonderful. So much of what you have said parallels the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris, and I'm sure other spiritual paths. So, do you have a specific spiritual path? I mean, I know you say that you've learned a lot from so many people over the years, but is there one path right now that you follow? And I know that you also meditate, right? I'm sure that you do. Yeah.
Yes,
Talked,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Known that, yeah. So do you
Hmm.
follow a path, or you just
My,
have
my,
absorbed a lot of teachings from different people over many years?
it's more a lot of teachings from a
Beautiful.
lot of people.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to have, I guess, because I set a strong intention to be whole and well. Because of that, I see that I have attracted over the years so many important, valuable teachers and mentors that have a spiritual tone, so to speak. I think more than anything, it's working every day on deepening my connection with a higher power, with a source, with the divine, whatever one wants to call it,
Right.
something
Yeah.
outside of myself that's bigger than myself, that has infinite intelligence and infinite love for me and the planet and those on the planet, and someone or something that I actually ask and I get answers. I don't ask for help or to change my life. I'm the one that has to change my life, but I do ask for clarity, or I ask for um, um, a lot of times it's clarity to know
Clarity. Yeah.
how can I manage this in the best possible way, whatever this happens to be, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a situation, so that I gain greater clarity when I'm stuck. And then my gratitude prayers every morning and evening. Twice a day I make time to
Go
thank
inside.
thank the being or the divine, let's call it, or
Beautiful.
source, for the many gifts and um, just this lifetime, the beauties that I experience in life, in people and in the world around me and in nature.
Just
So
listen
it's a
to you.
combination. It's just a combination of a lot of things.
Well, listening to you and having known you for a long time, I can see that you just have continued to evolve. You didn't get stuck. along the way, or even thinking, I know what I'm talking about. I can teach. I think the beautiful thing is that you continue to learn and you continue to grow. And so then anybody that comes to you for help, or just people that come into your life, I really do believe so much that people just show up in our lives for a reason. There's
That's so
something that
true.
we have to learn
That's
from
so
them,
true.
and hopefully they learn something from us too. But
Yeah, yeah.
I can see, what you're saying is so aligned with, I feel, I mean, it's a spiritual path, and people might not come to you for spirituality, but I'm sure that once they begin to go on this path of what you're teaching and giving, they love it, right? And they change. And that's the beautiful thing. I'm sure that you're changing many, many lives. And there's so much more to talk about, but I think that you have covered so much. And you've always been a giver, and you continue to give to others. And
Thank you.
I feel that's really an important part of life today is, are we taking, wanting more, wanting this, wanting that, or are we from our hearts? It's not about the physical, it's not about the material, it's about from the heart. Are we giving? And you're definitely one of those, Alicia. So I'm so thrilled to get to know you, have known you, and to have you in my life. And I can see that many, many, many others feel the same way about you. And you're based in Miami, and you also live in Aspen, so you get to help people all over. So good to see you. And
thank you.
Thank you for taking the time all the way from Aspen, right, on Zoom. Great.
Well, thank you for doing what you do and bringing wonderful folks onto your program, and allowing everyone to share the best of who they are with your audience and the Kamari Center.
Thank you so much. And it's all about changing. This is the time for change, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. We have change happening all around us in the world.
But it could be good change or bad change. We can create the good change, even if there's something not so good.
Well, we can change it. It's how we look at it. When there's change and we think it's bad change, can we shift our perception? Can we find some good in it? Whether it's the world around us or whether it's within ourselves or in our relationships, what can we do to make it better? And by changing our perception.
Yeah. And we can all be part of this. I like to think of it as almost a movement, no matter where you're at, no matter who you're with, what group, whatever you're doing. If you feel this in your heart, you're part of it,
Exactly.
So good to get to be with you,
Thank
Alicia.
you.
And thank you for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye for now.